was a miraculous amount of inventions alongside a wave of R-rated events that contributed to the very essence of what modern America is today. Like the audio cassette, Vietnam, Coffee Mate, and the Summer of Love. This small strip of time defined a twilight moment in our imagination. A lust hunt to be proven in the world of racing turned obsession and magic into victory, edging a line in nirvana that drove right through the phantom zone of perfection, orchestrating a collision between icebergs vehicle manufacturer Ford Motor Company and automotive racing giant Scuderia Ferrari. In the true David versus Goliath that birthed the origins and creations of the GT40, America's first supercar. In the years leading up to Le Mans 66, back home, the Ford Motor Company was going through a glow-up. Thanks to newly placed CEO Henry Ford II, codenamed the Deuce, the company was able to receive the update patch they needed to get back on the market. You see, the thing is that by this time, the market, just like Ford, was also changing. With a lack of appeal to a wider, younger audience, this decade marked the beginning of the fast American automobile that sealed a long-time partnership with Shelby American, debuting the Ford Mustang and opening up the Total Performance program that officially now made racing Ford's business. Looking for something fresh to cook up, Ford flew overseas to Europe. The answer they were looking for was in the hands of racing car manufacturer Enzo Ferrari. Old man Ferrari had achieved the impossible, surviving the war and opening up a car company that throughout its racing heritage became Italy's and Europe's most pristine car manufacturer. The problem was that due to Enzo's pursuit for racing perfection, Ferrari had gone bankrupt and winning races wasn't enough to pay the bills. No way out, Enzo put half of the company up for sale in a $16 million deal with Ford, who some would say wasn't a plot to get Fiat to buy some more of that pasta, if you know what I mean. On May 21st, 1963, all chips were on the table. Ford was willing to do whatever it took to acquire Ferrari. Don Fry and a team of suits arrived at Maranello to close the deal on what would be a 22-day business excursion that ended the moment Enzo had read on paper that the racing division of Ferrari would be controlled by Ford as well. Writing no bueno on the document clause was followed by a deku smash of humiliating insults. Shouting Henry would never be like his father was followed by some wild comments about everybody's baby mom's line of work and their product, calling Ford an ugly-ass company who made ugly little cars. Old man Enzo then got up and walked right out the front door for some gelatos. Mouth wide open on the plane ride home, back at headquarters, Henry wanted to hear all the tea. Unfazed by Enzo's kill count, he told his executives right there and then with the enthusiasm of $100 million, build me a car that would spin the block on Ferrari in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Only the most pristine race in the endurance racing calendar, made up of 8.3 miles of French back roads. The Deuce didn't make clear that in order to be Ferrari, the engineers had to come up with a car that can drive open throttle for 24 hours, a total distance of 3,000 miles, shift 9,000 times and reach top speeds of up to 200 miles per hour without braking. The clock ticking and only 10 months on the calendar till Le Mans 64, Leo Beebe was placed as the head of Ford's racing department, who was responsible for hiring Eric Bradley of Lola to take on the form of the project. With a 255 cubic inch 4.2 liter alloy V8 hard modified in Michigan and a body designed in the UK, the GT40 Mark I was born. Standing 40 inches 2,200 pounds, come the opening start of Le Mans 1964 in June, none of the opening participating Mark I's would get to see the end of the race due to gearbox and suspension issues. Answering the distress call front and center was Leesburg, Texas raised Carroll Shelby, a former 1959 Le Mans winner. The American father of performance was appointed lead of the project alongside Moody and Allenman, tasseling their differences but ultimately wanted to collectively put Ferrari and Enzo on a t-shirt, catching more charges than Kodak for its menacing behavior while in drive. The first edition of the Mark I had a love for smoking on the brakes at high speeds and booking first class tickets to Florida after 100 miles per hour. In light of this issue, Shelby appointed Ford's aerospace division to place a no-fly zone along with the replacement of every single component except for the body of the car. Needing to be tested, of course, overtaking your precision quicker than the chains of Hades pulled Ken Miles, who proved to be a crucial driver for Ford and the technical improvements done to the GT40. Going live at Le Mans 65, Ford was moving 11 deep up against Ferrari's 12 at the start. A black screen caused by a malfunction flopped the first ever broadcast to us here at home, luckily hiding the catastrophic vehicular carnage from the American viewers' eyes after the first hour. An engine rebuild on the rush to prepare the Mark I's had caused head-pulled issues on the cars. On top of heating complications, the amount of power pushing the Mark IIs was ripping the trans axles apart. And come midnight, all entry GT40s would be out of the race due to mechanical problems. 11 Ferrari entries also got sent to the gulag alongside all factory-ran 250 GTO LMs, so in a sneaky last-minute effort, they moved the resources to a secondary private American team who miraculously had the only 250 GTO LM running on good years. Grasping the L they almost just took in the locker rooms, the cheers and celebrations quickly settled and the humbleness for what could have been started to live rent-free inside of Enzo's head. Ford was quickly catching up. Entering Le Mans 66 with 2 previous wins at Sebring and Daytona, both won by Miles in the number 1. 6 Ford GT40 Mark II entry cars will start at the line. Uniquely, the free running for the Shelby Performance team had instantly swappable brakes and a first-of-its-kind in-house state-of-the-art engine dyno reliability testing machine that ran the race in the engine and gearbox 10 times before they were even placed on the chassis. Let it be clear, this was an all-out war against Ferrari, but the amount of money and time dropped on these GTs made Shelby, Moody, and Alleman take the fight against each other as well. Driver Jerry Grant later in an interview stated that the real competition was between the Ford drivers. Our main concern was beating the Ford drivers from other camps. And with the flick of a wrist, Henry Ford II waved green to the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans. Dashing towards their seats, the number 2 Ford, driven by Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon, quickly established the lead. In an attempt to push P for a good pole position, John Whittemore of the Element Racing had slightly collided with the number 20 P3. While a malfunctioning door handle in the number 1 Ford had Miles back at pits in the first lap, a slam on the handle and a little faith, and Ken was back in business. Come dusk, the fleet of Mark IIs was dwindling. The Gurney Grand Ford battle all throughout the night, suffering engine failures due to temperatures dramatically climbing come sunrise. The last 2 Ferrari 330 P3s met their fate one after another when in hour 9, the number 20, driven by Ludovico and Mike, suffered an accident on lap 123. 8 hours later, while battling to chase Bandini and Gene, the number 21 P3 has sealed Ferrari's fate when on lap 227 it suffered engine failure, officially retiring Ferrari out of the race and marking Ford's last miles to a historic victory. Let me remind you that we were still in the 60s and everybody and everything was out to violate in some type of way. This clown, alongside a big majority of the team, including Harry and Shelby, agreed that Ken Miles, soon to be awarded the Triple Crown, to slow down for the number 5 and the number 2 for a photo finish. A decision Shelby will later in his life in an interview regret instigating. This goofy Nickelodeon Slam Award finish marked the end of a promise. In a final demonstration of strength in numbers, the corporate giant had made it too clear for Ferrari. We're here now, and we ain't going nowhere. The shockwave that was to follow could only be described as Ferrari's losing juju era at Le Sarthe, a bitter amount of L's that finally ended in 2023. Officials investigated the orchestrated finish on the spot, declaring that due to regulations, supposedly the car that started the furthest back was to be crowned the winner, giving Bruce McLaren the most rapt, upsetting victory to have ever been witnessed at Le Mans. I'd rather die in a racing car than get eaten up by cancer, said Miles, passing on later that year while testing a prototype GT at Riverside Raceway, California. Deemed the heart and soul of the project by Shelby, the planted seeds of Ken Slade were sketched a map road for Ford at Le Mans 67. Shaking the dinner table once again, the French ruled a whack-ass engine displacement regulation for Le Mans 68 and 69. Both years also won by the American manufacturer. Backgrounds of all life worked on Ford's manifesto under an assembly of parts built in different countries, assembled under one roof, working in harmony to pave a legacy of triumph that engraved in time some of the fastest, most magnificent cars this earth has ever conceived, giving us the Ford of today, a true force to be reckoned with in the world of motorsport.
57.